Can I have your attention, please?
Where's my first page?
Hello? All right, the time has come. We'll call this meeting to order, the May meeting, regular meeting of the Russellville City Council. This time we'd like for you to rise and join us. We'll be led in prayer by Pastor Roy Smith, and then we'll follow that with a pledge to the flag.
I invite you to pray with me. Holy God, we give you thanks for our community. We give you thanks for this place in which we can live, and we give you thanks for the fact that these elected officials come and members of our community come, and together we seek to make a path forward for this community that is the best it can be. I thank you for these who've been willing to take the mantle of leadership. I thank you for these community members who care. And now tonight we simply pray that as we seek to make decisions in this place, that as your wisdom comes near, we would have the grace to receive it and the courage to do it. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated, please.
He's late.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Ms. Cruth?
Here.
Mr. George?
Here.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Tripp is absent. Mr. Sims?
Here.
Mr. Wiley?
Here.
Mr. Westcott?
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Mr. Tripp will be joining us shortly. Council, in your packet, you were provided with the minutes from our most recent meetings. If there's no corrections or questions, we would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
I believe it's, let's go motion, Mr. Westcott, second, Mr. Wiley, try to keep it even tonight. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Finance report, Mr. McCoyne.
Say it.
Council and Mayor, finance report for April. Revenues were $1,294,155. For April, that's 0.77% above my year-to-date projections. Sales tax receipts were $712,041. Year-to-date, the sales tax receipts are 1.02% below same period last year. Franchise fees and permits, $457,544. Total expenditures of $919,825. For April, that's 6.52% above our year-to-date projection. Year-to-date, more receipted was $36,381 than expended. Street revenues operations was $159,564. It's 5.81% below year-to-date projections. Sales tax receipts were $354,377. The half-cent sales tax, $49,881. Street funds operations, $301,500. That's 19.45% above year-to-date projections, but it does include the Arkansas study and O Street. Sales tax improvements, we spent $11,228. In capital, we spent $10,607. Economic development revenues were $44,973. $39,825 was the new sales tax, $5,148 in interest. Expenditures were $156,371 for the Arkansas Valley Alliance and Weir Road. Capital assets, $246,167 receipts. Of that, $243,003 was the new sales tax, $3,164 was in interest. Expenditures were $871,468, which to City Corp, Aquatic Center, Fire Station, Police Department, and the airport. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. McCoyne? Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
That'll bring us to the mayor's report. As far as operations, everything's running typical and on schedule and on budget for this time of year. So we'll get on to some other items. Some of y'all have heard me mention this in the past. If you stop the flow of water on the Arkansas River and emptied it out, Russellville, Dardanelle, Polk County, Yell County would pretty quickly look like one community. I'd ask all of you to join me for a moment of silence. The tragedy last week with Lieutenant Mainhart, his roots in this community run deep, and I'd appreciate it if you'd join me in recognizing the family. Say a prayer if you'd like to. I know it would be important to them. Thank you all. Next thing is a more pleasurable item. I want to welcome Miss Phyllis Caruth to the City Council. It's new for her, but it's not quite fair to call her a rookie. She's lived this life quite a bit, extensively. Welcome to the City Council, and look forward to working with you. Walk Across Arkansas. Ms. Palladino, why don't I turn this one over to you? You actually went through the whole thing. I kind of missed a few days. I made it for the one where they had the cake.
I'm going to pass it over to Miss Jerry Van Gilder, if you'd like to come up, talk a little bit about it. But first, Walk Across Arkansas was an initiative that the City Hall and the City of Russellville joined in on, and it was a great experience. We are so looking forward to the fall when they kick off another program for Walk Across Arkansas. It gets you thinking about being healthy. It gets you thinking about exercising and just overall bettering yourself as a person, as a health reason. So, Jerry, why don't you come up here and talk about what all went into it and the teams that participated.
Thank you, Julie. We had 91 people sign on to participate in the Walk Across Arkansas and 9 teams across the county. We were very fortunate to join in a partnership with the City of Russellville, and we had people from the police department, fire department, we had extension homemakers, we had 4-H'ers, we had families, we had even some little church groups that got in on this. And most of the 91 people recorded their minutes. Not all, but most of them did. So we were really pleased on that. And if I take just a moment to share with you some totals, overall these 91 people recorded over 141,000 minutes of physical activity. We counted exercising at the gym, bicycling, swimming, any type of physical activity was counted. The average minutes walked were 2,521. The total hours, if you put that in hours, a little over 2,000 hours. That average person worked 42 hours, and that seems like a lot in 8 weeks, but it was a good walk. Most people walked around 20 to 45 minutes a day. Some were really good and got their hour in every day, which it is recommended for Americans for us to walk at least 5 times a week for at least 30 minutes, and most of our teams did this. If you wanted to put a value to this, not only we're trying to improve our health and be more conscious of what we eat and trying to increase some physical activity, if you put a supposedly health savings, and I know that's what many of us are interested in, it'd be over 14,000 health savings for these people that were on the team. And I have here with me this evening the winning team, and they logged in over 24,000 minutes of some type of physical activity, youth and adults. There were, I believe, 16 on their team, and we've got a representative group tonight, and I would like for the mayor to help me present the plaque to them, and we'd like to get a couple of pictures if we could.
Good, yep.
And this is the Better Together team. Every team had some names. We had some things called the City Haulers. You know where they were from.
I want to gather everybody up here.
through the crowd.
Tell you what, for convenience, I'm just going to stay right over here and invite Candace Underwood up. She is the president of the Help Network. I'm going to let you talk a little bit about it, and then I've got something for you.
Okay, awesome. The Help Network is an organization, a nonprofit organization here in Russellville that is celebrating this next week their 25th anniversary. We help low-income families pay their utility bills, or if they need rental assistance, we help them. We've got a lot of new programs coming up, so we're super excited about that. On Saturday, we'll have our first annual Night with the Hogs. We have DJ Williams coming to town, along with other former Razorbacks, to have dinner with us and just to have a good evening to start our 25th anniversary week celebration. Next week, we'll do similar to what Russ Bus did. We'll have a night. Monday night will be Dixie Cafe. Tuesday night, Paint with Lane. Wednesday night, La Huerta. They're all going to give a portion of their proceeds back to the Help Network. So we're really excited to celebrate this.
Good. Stay right here a minute.
Okay?
I first got to know Help Network actually 20 plus years ago. They do our need screening for the Lions Club. We have a program to give eyeglasses out to needy individuals, and it's been a pleasure working with them for 25 years or more before I ever got there. If you'll indulge me, whereas charitable nonprofit organizations throughout the state of Arkansas save taxpayers thousands of dollars through their services, enrich and enliven communities in Arkansas through their contributions, and add significantly to the high quality of life of all of our citizens. And whereas these organizations are committed to serving the educational, cultural, civic, health, the religious, human service, recreational, philanthropic, environmental, eleemosynary, benevolent, and other diverse needs of Arkansas's people. And whereas nonprofit organizations bring people together to address pressing needs and find creative and effective solutions in our communities, as well as build partnerships and collaborate with businesses, governments, faith-based organizations, and other groups to expand resources in every corner of our communities. And whereas nonprofit organizations provide opportunities for developing skills, leadership abilities, and services through civic engagement, by allowing people throughout the area support and participate in nonprofit organizations by working as staff and serving as board members, volunteers, staff, patrons, and donors. And whereas the staff and volunteers of the nonprofit organization of Help Network Incorporated are dedicated to upholding the highest standards of community service, donating their time and effort to make a difference in the lives of others here in the city, Polk, Yell, and Johnson counties. And whereas the Help Network Incorporated is observing its 25th anniversary of its founding, which provides a unique opportunity for the citizens of Russellville and Polk County to join together in appreciation of the many contributions made by Help Network Incorporated over the past 25 years and other nonprofit organizations to our continued well-being. Now, therefore, I, Randall Horton, Mayor of the City of Russellville, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim May 20th through 27th to be Help Network Incorporated Week throughout the city, and encourage all residents to participate in their series of fundraisers during that week, and to recognize the positive impact of Help Network Incorporated, as well as other nonprofit organizations, have on the quality of life of the residents of the city of Russellville, Arkansas, and surrounding areas. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Russellville to be affixed. Thank you very much for what you do. If we can ever help you guys, let us know. Thank you, guys. Okay, one last item. Hopefully we don't take too long with this one. We discussed this last week at the agenda prep meeting. We need to move the June council meeting date. I believe we discussed moving it up 2 days to the Tuesday before. The 13th. If that's okay with the council, most of us will be in Little Rock for training at the Municipal League Summer Conference. So if that's okay with the council, I would entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second. Motion, Mr. Wiley, second, Mr. Westcott. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Okay, department report this month is going to be delivered by Mr. Brian Holstein, Community Development and Code Enforcement.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and public. I'm going to do this department head report, and I'm going to make it short. I'd like to start off by talking a little bit about community development. We're a division of 3. Community development is a staff of 4 people, and then I have code enforcement, which is a staff of 2. I inherited facility maintenance, which does the facilities, the maintenance on facilities in the buildings of Russellville, a staff of 2. In community development, a little bit of year-to-date status. We have had 67 residential permits pulled with the permit fees of $10,813.58. In commercial permitting, we have done 26 with permit fees of $18,266.84. Electrical permits at 55 with a permit fee of $4,440. HVAC permits at 48 with fees of $1,605. Plumbing permits at 63 with 1,762 fees. The total cost of construction this year for residential and commercial is at $16,393,735.82. The total fee cost collected is $39,409.65. Moving on into businesses, in our department, community development, we do permitting for building permits, we review plans and approve plans, and then we inspect. And we do all phases of inspections from ground up. One of our other duties is to license businesses in the city of Russellville and also check to make sure that they're in their permitted uses. At this time, currently we have 41 year-to-date from January to June. We have 41 new businesses. Our total businesses are at 1,742, which gives us a total collected value of $41,751.13. Code enforcement status for year-to-date, code enforcement has opened 601 cases with 406 cases already being closed and 136 cases still open. In my facility maintenance department, we have started being able to do more in-house. A lot of contracting work was done before we created this department. At this time, they've started doing mechanical installations, and they're focusing now on trying to do high-efficiency lighting in some of the buildings with LED lighting to help in our proactive maintenance as far as utilities. If I went further into code enforcement and the request types, we would be looking at abandoned vehicles, building permit violations, weeds and tall grass, missing fences where swimming pools could be, vehicles, and so forth and so on. The main thing I'd like to say is the big hitters in some of these areas. We have adopted a smell ordinance in the city of Russellville because of some of our issues with some of our facilities in Russellville. Our code enforcement officer has done 122 complaints on smell ordinance. He has 2 open right now. I would like to take just a little bit of time. This is going to be a later on in the meeting, but I'd like to take a little bit more time to go back into community development and talk to you a little bit about what we do and what we're trying to do with the city of Russellville. And it's just about revitalization on existing structures. It's about trying to make sure that from the ground up, a building's built right for the owner of the building, for the owner of a home. We have adopted codes. We're in the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code Volume 1, 2, and 3, and that covers residential, commercial, and fire. And what I'd like to say to you tonight is I'm going to try to introduce tonight a demolition ordinance that's going to be later in the evening, and a plan review. And the reason for this is just to better ourselves and to catch things for the owner and the builders ahead of time. Sometimes you can have some catastrophic costs that you're not aware of. And if we get in early in these demolition permitting, it's going to help everybody involved, not only the city, but the people that are out there trying to build these projects. So when it comes forth, I'll be getting back up and talking to you more about these issues. But thank you for your time. I said I was going to be short, and I am going to be short. You didn't come here to see me tonight. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, council, feel free to ask.
I've got one question. You mentioned 16 million in housing and commercial. What was the time frame of that?
That is from January to April.
Of this year.
Of this year.
First 4 months, we had $16 million in housing developments
That's
and
correct.
commercial properties.
That's correct, sir.
16 million. Okay, so now, of that amount, how much of that you think was spent here in Russellville?
I would say, I would have to estimate that quite a bit, because of residential building, it's just not practical to go get your lumber and carry it from a long distance. These are all, 10-speed trucks that bring the material to you, and typically, when I'm at the job site, I'm seeing Ride Out, I'm seeing Lowe's products, I'm seeing Vincent's, I'm seeing, wholesalers that are right here in Russellville. Their products is what I'm seeing.
So, Mr. Harville, what number do we use for value added? Do you recall that number when we take it? But it's significant. So we're looking at something at minimum of 10 times more in value added to this community from that $16 million. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody else got a question? Thank you, sir. Okay, I lied. There is one other item that I was about to skip over. Mr. Kevin Massey would like to come in and give us an update on the goings-on at the library. Kevin, if you would.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. While we are the Polk County Library System, the majority of patrons that we serve at the Russellville branch are citizens of Russellville. We average 335 people per day, and that number is a lot higher during the summer months. First, I'm glad to report that the library has finally gotten a new roof that we've been wanting for a very long time. And now just speak very briefly on our summer programs. I know we've got a lot to do tonight, so just this week we've started registration for the summer reading programs. This is not only for kids, it's also for teens and adults as well. The summer reading kickoff is Saturday, June the 3rd at the library from 10 to 1. There'll be a lot of fun activities for everybody. We will be having regular story times on Mondays and Wednesdays. During the month of June, the Arkansas Game and Fish has partnered with us, and they will be coming on the second and third Thursday afternoons at 1 o'clock to present. The first week is a monarch butterfly program, And the second week is a bat box building program. Also, the 4-H group has partnered with us, and they will be presenting a different program each Friday in June and for the first week of July. So there's a lot of things happening during the month of June and the first week of July at the library. Like I said, it's not just for kids, it's for adults and teenagers as well. And if anybody is interested in attending any of the programs, just give us a call or stop by the library and we'll be happy to help you. So if there's no questions, that's all I've got.
I've got a question. How are you guys set up for social media campaigns and advertising for these programs that you have? Because I would think there'd be, like you said, 335 people a day. You could get that number up significantly with more knowledge in the community about those programs.
Yeah. We put a lot of stuff on Facebook,
Okay.
and we've got our website page. We do a little bit of Twitter as well. And then like for the summer reading, we pass out lots of flyers at the schools and stuff like that. Okay.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
Right after you talked about the monarch butterfly, you mentioned something else building. What
It's
was
a-
the word? Bat?
Bat box.
A bat box?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So like if you have problems with bats in your home or something, this is a little house that they are building for bats to live in.
They would teach me how to make one?
You'll build it there and you can take it home with you.
Okay. It's interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll see you back when?
They don't hurt you.
Thank you. I believe that will finish mayor's report and department report and bring us down to committee reports. Finance Chair Freddie Harris, you got anything for us this month?
I feel like I've done all the talking. I missed the agenda meeting in the mid-month, so the old business from that, bringing forward to this, is the consideration of approval to pay the invoice for the Boys and Girls Club for $5,500. I'd like to present that in the form of a motion.
Okay, council, you heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 1 carries, Madam Chair.
Appropriation is line item, number 2 is appropriation from the Economic Development. It's for the Russellville Comprehensive Plan. It's for $45,600. I'd like to present that in the form of a motion.
Council, you heard the committee's motion. Any discussion?
Which account is this coming out of?
This comes out of economic development. 2.
Two.
I'm sorry, 2, yeah.
Number 2?
Is that right, Jerry? In this 2? Yeah.
Number 3 is for, did you vote? Oh,
Yeah,
all in
you
favor?
heard it.
Okay,
Any other
you hush.
questions?
I'll hush.
Okay, you've heard the motion. If there's no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Number 3 is an appropriation from administration for building insurance for the total of $4,059. I'd like to present that in the form of a motion.
Council, you heard the motion. If there's no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Carries.
Another appropriation from administration, and it's for $15,000 for storm damage to the repair of the animal shelter, city hall, and the police buildings. Present that in the form of a motion.
Okay, council, you heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Next are 2 line item transfers. I think they're related, as best I remember.
That's correct.
$15,000 and $3,110. And I present those in the form of a motion.
Okay, council, you heard the motion, and these were discussed last Tuesday. Is there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those 2 carried.
Next is a consideration of a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign all necessary documents to complete all real estate transactions with the property owners to acquire the necessary land to proceed with the agreement with the Department of the Army Corps of Engineers, Section 205 Prairie Creek and Plan and Study. Present that in the form of a motion.
Okay, council, you heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 7 is approved.
Number 8, consideration of an ordinance amending ordinance number 2029, which established the building permit fee schedule. I present that in the form of a motion.
Council, you heard the motion. Is there any discussion or questions on this one?
Are we reading by title only, one of 3 readings, or what's the motion exactly pertaining to the reading of the ordinance?
We would need a, motion to suspend.
That's what you want to do.
Motion to suspend the rules, read one time by title only with a short explanation.
Second.
One time only or one of 3?
One time only.
Okay, so we've got a motion to suspend and read one time, title only with short explanation. Motion is Mr. Westcott, second is Mr. Wiley. All in favor of the motion to suspend, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Attorney.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 2029, which established a building permit fee schedule for other purposes. This ordinance would add to ordinance number 2029, section 5, below the current fee schedule based upon square footage, a minimum permit fee of $30 that would apply to building electrical and HVAC permits, a demolition permit for $100 for commercial only, plan review fee of $150, commercial only. If there's sprinkling, there'd be additional sprinkling review fee of $50. And the other type of building permit not covered by this chart will require detailed estimates.
Brian, all of those are commercials, aren't they? All of them are commercial? Yes,
Won't affect residential at all.
because there's a lot of questions about that.
Did Mr. Brown have a question too, I thought?
I was going to, I talked with Brian today about this stuff, and, there was some things that came out of that opened my eyes up about how much time he spends involved in this situation. And, what'd you say it was on looking at the plans and reviewing these issues?
Well, it's just not me. It's Kurt Jones, it's Richard Sedian, it's City Corporation, and it's the building department. Personally, I spend about 70% of my time reviewing plans.
Thank you.
Brian, while you're up there, tell the story about the gas line inspection. That's a good example of.
Well, yes, it is. What Mayor is referring to is we have a gas permit cost of $10, and I have been up on ConAgra, it's a 15-acre roof, on over 1,000 foot of pipe for $10. So you can see that we're a little bit off on our permitting.
Any other questions or discussion?
I just gotta say, when you're making comparisons to some of the cities,
Still
any
cheap.
recommendations that he's making here and what we're looking at, it's cheap.
Yeah.
And, just take that into consideration and understand that people are getting a deal.
All right, on the advice of the attorney, that was recommended by the Finance Committee, but because we made the motion to suspend, we'd like to entertain a renewed motion for approval.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Wiley, second. No, motion, Mr. Westcott, second, Mr. Wiley. You want to call the roll on that?
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Mr. Sims,
Yes.
Mr. George,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Ms. Caruth.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Last item on this, from this meeting was an appropriation for the department, from the department administration for repair and maintenance for $7,000, and it's to put, have a camera and computer access on top of the new central fire station. I present that in the form of a motion.
Chief, do you want to address this, or you want me to, about the $7,000 for roof penetrations? This came up yesterday, and did Richard sit in and talk to you about it?
He didn't talk to me about it yesterday, but this has been in the works the entire time. What it is, and it ties in with Ms. Jackmore, IT, and the police department and their security issues, what they're wanting to do. They see an opportunity with the new fire station to place boxes that at some point in the future, they can place cameras that would allow them to monitor security downtown and some type of microwave. I'm not sure I understand the technology, but it basically sends information to the police department about, you know, the things that are going on downtown. It allow them to set up a camera system downtown when we have events going on and monitor activities from a security standpoint.
So it's not so much security for the fire department as it is.
It is not for the fire
Yeah.
department. This is strictly for the city, and it's in the future. And now is the time to make those penetrations if you want to for the future.
While they're going through that construction.
That's correct. Now is the most efficient time to
Yeah.
do it, and that's why this has been proposed. It is not part of the fire station proposal.
Thanks, Chief. Jerry, did you want to add something?
That was what I was gonna say, that this is the time to do that while we're already in the construction move.
Yeah.
This will give them radio control to cameras downtown. The camera won't actually go on the fire station, it'll be an antenna that'll transmit back and forth to the cameras. But now's the time, while they're there, not come back later and try to punch a hole in the roof and make a
Yeah.
bad mistake.
Yeah, one consideration is the roofing sub will warranty it if we do it now and do it this way. But there's an update that came up yesterday, because of the time it took to get through processing, the subcontractor was saying there's a price increase out there that may or may not affect it. We're waiting to find out. We want a definitive answer of what I would like, if you guys are comfortable with it. Go ahead and approve this. When we get the final answer, if it gets way off of this, we'll walk this back and redo it somehow later. But we think we're gonna get it for this number, and so I'd like for you to go ahead and approve it if you're comfortable with that. So, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 9 is approved, Madam Chair.
Now you start with today.
Okay, tonight we met again,
1, 2, and 3.
and 1, 2, and 3 all pertain to the discussion of the ladder truck for the fire department. The total is like $770,000. And I present this in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, council, you heard the motion. We're saving 300 grand, Jerry, buying this deal.
220.
Was it 220?
Or
230,
pardon me,
230.
230,000.
And the 370 will come, the 400,000 comes out of the fire truck fund, and 370 comes from the new economic development and capital equipment fund.
That's fund number 3.
Yep, Fund 3. So there's the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Sorry, did you have a?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Not to be the bearer of bad news or to be negative on this, we do need this, but a couple months ago, we heard a report that said we need $1.6 million of equipment soon. Fire department did a great presentation. It was my understanding that we were going to be given a plan over the next several years of how we're going to tackle this problem. And I hadn't seen that plan. And yes, we can save money here by buying this truck tonight, but I bet there's another demo deal to be had at a later date. So by doing this, are we taking a tunnel vision approach to buy this one thing to potentially save money? But long term, if we need pumper trucks more so than ladder trucks, then, you know, I thought we were going to see a plan to get from where we are today to where we want to be or need to be. And I'm not sure that spending $750,000 when this wasn't even on the budget at the last, and wasn't even on the agenda last meeting is in the best interest. I mean, you know, that's $750,000. Yes, we have 400 of it easily sitting there, but we're robbing Peter to pay Paul with the other $370,000. So I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I'm just thinking, let's take a hard look at this, and you know, do we need to take a deep breath before boom, it's $750,000 gone?
Mr. Mayor, we're looking at a $1.2 million truck, and yes, it's a demo 2015 model. I wish we could buy the $1.2 million one, but we've got an opportunity here. We need to strike while it's hot. As far as 720,000, I can take you and show you two combines that sit in a field, 520,000 apiece, and they're used a few weeks out of the year. This truck's going to be online 24/7, and we're praying it never gets used. We've got hotels and dormitories in this town that we can't service with a 75-foot truck that we've got now. That truck was purchased in 1990. This is a 2015 model. I hope 20 years from now we're not talking about it. I hope it's offline, and you said it has a 20-year lifetime, but I'd like to see us, Mr. Tripp, you're right. We need to get on a plan where we're upgrading our equipment on some type of basis every 5 years, 10 years, whatever it needs to be. But I set through this truck. It has a smaller footprint with a taller ladder. It has beams on it to when they pull up to a site, it will tell them exactly where the feet will land, so they don't have to worry about whether they're going to take out a truck or a car or a telephone pole, with the feet that extend off each side to give those men security as they go up that ladder. I call for question.
We would need a second to call for the question, or if somebody else needs.
Question's undebatable.
Second? It's undebatable.
It needs a second. It needs
You have to call for a question, you gotta vote.
It'd have to be a second.
Don't have to do a second on a call for a question.
Before we get too hung up on that, is there some more discussion?
Can't discuss that, call for a question.
Okay? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Call the roll. Did you get that? Okay. The motion carries. No roll call?
You're on.
Move right along. Next on my list is the consideration of approval of the invoice from the Arkansas Valley Alliance for Economic Development, and their monthly invoice is for $5,511.27, and I present that in the form of a motion.
Council, you heard the motion on item 4. All in favor, is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4 is approved.
Number 5 is the consideration of a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk treasurer of the city of Russellville to sign an agreement and all necessary paperwork with the seller of properties for the conveyance of real property to the city of Russellville in exchange for the in lieu of fee for half-street improvements. And I present this in the form of a motion.
Council, you heard the committee's motion. Is there a discussion or questions on this item? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 5 is approved.
Next is the consideration of a resolution authorizing the acquisition of right-of-ways and easements for the city of Russellville needed to implement the Weir Road Water and Sewer Extension Improvement Plan. Make this in the form of a motion. Present it.
Council, you heard the committee's motion. Is there any questions or discussion?
Mayor, I do have a question on this. Is
Mr.
there a
Tripp.
dollar amount attached to this? Or is there gonna be a dollar amount attached?
Yeah, Dave, go ahead. It's built into the bid for the project.
Appraisals have been done for these projects, and so far, all except for one, I think the appraiser says there is no.
Part of the $3 million?
Yeah.
Okay. Another question on that, Mayor. Has the money been appropriated on this project?
It has.
It has.
It has been appropriated?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last year, I believe, wasn't it, or
Yeah,
earlier this year?
we did it, yeah.
December. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6 is approved.
Number 7 is consideration of a resolution authorizing the sale of personal property through the Gov Deals auction services. Make that in the form of a motion.
Council, you heard the committee's motion. Is there any discussion on item 7?
Is there any particular thing we're selling right now?
Jerry, give them a rundown.
Policeman's house.
I have 2 Crown Vics, a Dodge van, a Dodge pickup, and possibly a forklift.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 7 is approved.
And that is the consideration for the approval of the 2015 state legislative audit.
And that was
Form of a
approved in
motion.
motion. Okay. Council, you heard the committee's motion. Is there any discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And that is all the motions that I have.
All right, then, that will bring us to personnel. Chairman Sims, you got any action for us this month?
The only action we have this month is welcoming Ms. Caruth to the Personnel Committee, and sorry, Mr. Wiley,
I'm gone, aren't
you're
I?
gone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, then. Let's see where we're at. I guess that brings us to unfinished business. Item 1, consideration of an ordinance prohibiting nuisance odor. This would be a second reading.
Mayor, make a motion for the second of the 3 readings on this with a note that in your packet, the original ordinance that has been read once already is in there, but I believe Mr. Smith provided a slightly revised copy for review. My motion is to continue the reading of the first original ordinance for the second reading and keep the other one for review for possible revision at time of adoption.
Is there any more additions?
Okay. Now, your motion is suspend the rules to not have to read the whole thing.
Suspend the
But-
rules,
but
read by
only on the
title
s-
only for the second reading only.
Only for the second reading, so we will
Of the
still have
original.
another reading. Okay, everybody got that?
Got it.
Anybody want to second his motion?
Second.
Second, Mr. Westcott. Let's call the roll on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Westcott,
Yes.
Mr. Sims,
Yes.
Mr. George,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Caruth,
Yes.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Smith.
An ordinance prohibiting nuisance odors occurring in the city of Russellville, Arkansas, establish definitions, set up a procedure to receive and investigate odor complaints, empowering certain officials to enforce this ordinance, exempting certain actions which fall under the AFPC and agricultural operations, repealing ordinance number 2206 and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would set out the necessary definitions in order to regulate and measure odors that occur within the city. It will set out the way in which authorize the community development and code enforcement to take those complaints and investigate them, and sets out a penalty as well as an exemption.
Very well. We'll bring it back for third reading next month. Item 2 under old business is consideration of an ordinance for amending the zoning code. Did we read this already? Do you remember, Kathy?
We did last
Seemed like we read this once. So I guess this is second reading
Make a motion for second reading by title only, second of the three readings.
and still have a third reading. All right. Motion, Mr. Tripp, second, Mr. Westcott. Would you call the roll on the motion to suspend?
Could we have some discussion first?
There's no mechanism for discussion. Yeah, there is.
After you get your
Yeah,
motion.
we need to vote on the motion to suspend first. and then we go.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Westcott,
Yes.
Mr. George,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Caruth,
Yes.
Mr. Wiley,
Yes.
Mr. Sims.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now you can ask a question.
Now, just simply refresh our memory on what we were discussing about this. It's a rezoning. It's qualifying
let's
some
let
of
the
our
city
zoning
We need to let the
codes.
city attorney read the title
Okay,
for procedure.
all right.
An ordinance amending the zoning code for the city of Russellville, Arkansas, which is ordinance number 1966, and for other purposes, this ordinance, if passed, would amend the zoning code at the table of permitted uses, the area requirements, and also the central business district C1B, which are located within the zoning code at Article 12, Article 13, and Article 2, Section 2.9 respectively.
All right, discussion, but if you don't mind, I would like to take a minute here because there's been much ado lately about our suspending the rules and things like that.
That is my point entirely, Mr. Mayor.
All right, this is 6 pages, 11 pages total.
Let him read them all.
What we're doing, suspending the rules, we're still gonna vote on this 3 times, we'll still bring it up 3 times, but we don't wanna make Mr. Tripp read until midnight tonight. I assure you, everybody on this council is as capable of reading as anybody else in this room. That's all we're suspending, is not making Mr. Tripp, or Mr. Smith read this whole document,
I won't take it.
or read as much as he can and then make Mr. Tripp take over, so. Mr. Sims, is that all you wanted?
That's just clarification on that, and, you know, we go through these zoning issues every month. And for, for the public awareness, these are all posted on our website. And you can go back through the history of them quite easily just by a little bit of hunting and clicking.
All right, so that will take care of the second reading on that, third reading next month. That'll bring us to new business 1. Consideration of an ordinance to rezone property. This will be a first reading because this has been tabled 2 months. Does anybody care to make a motion?
Make a motion to suspend the rule and read by title only with short explanation.
Second.
All right, for clarification,
First time only.
for the first
and
reading
vo-
only.
And vote on it tonight?
So you're suspending, you're
Yes.
asking to suspend on all 3 readings?
Yes.
Everybody clear? And you seconded, Mr. Westcott, are you clear? We're suspending on all 3 readings?
Correct.
Okay, would you call the roll on the motion to suspend?
Mr. Wiley,
Yes.
Mr. Westcott,
Yes.
Ms. Caruth,
No.
Mr. Tripp,
No.
Mr. Brown,
No.
Ms. Harris,
No.
Mr. George,
No.
Mr. Sims.
Yes.
Motion fails.
Okay, motion to suspend fails. We can entertain another motion to suspend for the first reading only at this
Could.
time,
You could.
or we can let you read the whole thing,
Right.
including the legal description and What's the council's pleasure? Would we like to hear Mr. Smith read until daylight, or?
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only with a short explanation for the first reading.
Everybody clear?
First of three.
First of three readings. Does anybody care to second that?
Mine was for the first reading.
For the first
Not
reading?
for the first of three, but
Right.
for the first reading.
Okay. The first reading only. Okay, that's good. That way,
It's
I
not-
see what he's doing. Does anybody care to second that? I'd like to point out, if we don't, then,
It dies for lack of motion, don't it?
well,
No.
It
No.
He has to read the whole
what it
thing.
means is Trey has to read
Yeah.
the whole stinking thing, including the legal description. And as good as he is at reading, that's going to be tedious.
I'll second that for the sake of Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Tripp. We have a motion and a second. We're going to suspend the rules, but only on the first reading, so that we can read this by title only, followed by a short explanation. Would you call the roll?
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Caruth?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
No.
Motion carries.
Mr. Smith.
It's going down to the legal.
Wouldn't that give me fun?
Yeah. In order to rezone certain buildings in the city of Russellville, Arkansas, and for the purposes, this ordinance would rezone property located on Marine Road at Jennifer Lane, Russellville, Arkansas, that is currently R1 to PUD, and is further described, and the attachment is Exhibit A.
All right, that's the first reading. That'll bring us to new business 2, a new procedure we want to try where we can allow ourselves some discussion in between readings. But before we can do that, we would need a motion.
Mayor, make a motion for discussion relating to the PUD item 1. Did I say that
Now
right?
we would need a second.
I'll second.
Motion, Mr. Tripp, second, Ms. Harris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No.
Opposed? Opposed?
No.
Wiley
No.
is a no. How many noes we got? All right, let's clear it up. Let's call a roll.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Westcott?
No.
Ms. Caruth?
No.
Mr. Wiley?
No.
Mr. Sims?
No.
Four. Fail.
What are we doing? We're voting on to have a discussion, and we're deadlocked at 4 to 4.
Can we have a discussion before you make your vote?
I don't think procedurally we can, but, I mean, I think a little discussion would probably help clear some things up. So I'll break the tie and vote affirmative. So, discussion.
Thank you, Mayor.
What do you got on your mind?
Now is there discussion?
Mayor,
Yeah,
I added
Mr.
this
Tripp
item.
first, and then Ms. Harris.
Okay.
I added this item in the agenda meeting in the hopes of having a mechanism to allow discussion, having learned from previous experiences going through ordinances, some good, some not so good, and realizing that we all make mistakes along the way, and we hopefully will learn as we go. There's really no mechanism for discussion as we go through the readings of an ordinance and we get to the third reading and we hear from a public, people get up here and speak, we talk amongst ourselves, and we essentially vote 5 minutes later. And that just didn't make a lot of sense to me. And so visiting with the mayor, visiting with Mr. Smith, we viewed this as an opportunity to potentially allow some discussion along the way that hopefully will facilitate good discussion. And, I'm not stepping on anybody's toes when I say this. We're all up here a little bit on edge for different reasons. Still a little bit of an election outcome hangover from both sides. And no matter what the project is, no matter the people for it or against it, everybody involved deserves due diligence. And it's our responsibility we chose to hold this office, to run and be elected, and it's our responsibility to give the benefit of the doubt to every situation. So, now this discussion, the thing that the people for and against have contacted me, and I say, as it stands now, I'm not in support of this project. I'll say that right here in front of everybody. That's the whole purpose of this discussion. As it stands today, I am not in support of this project. Now, but in the PUD process, that allows for the council to implement some changes or contingencies or stipulations on it. I am open for for the discussions of those possible stipulations or changes. Now, what those are, I don't know at this point, but I am open to that discussion because I go back to previous PUD processes, and it turned out to the benefit of the citizens of Russellville and our community by having that dialogue.
Ms. Harris, I believe you were next.
Well, Mark talked with me about this a couple of weeks ago, and I would like to say that since this is his idea and he seems to know most of the people in that area, I would like to see him be the contact person and then report back to us on what he's found for any suggested changes and the general mood of the people in the area.
Any other from the council?
I've got a comment.
Sorry. Did I hear somebody wanted to talk?
I did.
Mr. Sims?
I appreciate your stopping for a moment of silence at the beginning of this meeting tonight. I'd also like to remember the farmers in eastern Arkansas right now that are trying to recover from the flooding. The estimates are still climbing. We're looking at the hundreds of millions of dollars. By the way, in this county, it's 151 million farm gate receipts. I just wish we could get the people in this room as passionate about solutions to our low starting salaries of $27,500 for our police and firemen. I can start a county agent at $36,000, and I can bring them I can get them $40,000 for an additional if they bring us a master's degree. I've seen towns fight less over hog farms and trailer parks. Towns around us are shaking their heads in disbelief because in Russellville we fight over gated developments. Disputed the claims of lack of transparency. Despite the claims of lack of transparency, our city planner and engineer have worked with the developer and the planning commission since 2015. You can check me out on it. We appoint the planning commission to work out the details of these developments. And by the way, I live on the mountain. I live on Marina Road, just off of Marina Road. I drive by this piece of property often. And let me tell you, I love the trees and the view of the lake along there. I really do. It's beautiful. It's beautiful up on the hill up there too, where the arbors was to be built. But when I think about what could be built there, I cringe at the thought. We're fixing to get a taste of reality when the dozers start up the hill from there. And I, for one, would rather see a gated development than the alternatives. The property next to me is high density and with few, if any, restrictions. The property, another property beside me, oh, by the way, R1 guarantees us nothing except more traffic and more housing. Low rent housing in the case of what's going up the hill. Another property beside me sold and developed a few years back, and I didn't like it at first. Yeah, they took out the trees, opened up my view of the lake, actually improved my property value a little bit. I didn't like it. But you know what I gained? One of the best friends I've ever had. One of those police officers, by the way. I'm backing our professionals and our planning commission. I mean, after all, they're paid so high. How much our planning commission get paid, Mr. Wiley?
0.
I'm backing our planning commission on this project, and I personally want to thank them for their hard work. I wish we could hear from Mr. Garza and Mr. Simcox and some others that I had some questions for. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Mr. Brown, did you have something?
I'm just gonna follow up on what Mark said about open discussions and everything else. I just think we need to put something on paper and go there, because we've missed so many opportunities to discuss things, because we got into process, and we haven't been able to get out of the process. So, that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Brown, I respectfully point out that at the Planning Commission meetings, they're open to the public. There's time for public hearings. And in December, I sat right back there on the pew, not as a councilman, but as an observer, a citizen observer, and watched all the discussion, and I see nothing's changed since that time.
And Mr. Sims, I'm not trying to defer just to one particular instance. I'm talking about all the things that we've gone through, the years that I've been on this council. Okay, now I'm in agreement with your opinion on what should take place. But as far as the council and making open line of communication so we can discuss things, get things done, and do the right thing, that's not just this particular instance, it's the whole thing, what we do here on this council. We don't have enough discussion. I just want, and Mr. Tripp come up and brought this up, and it entertains the whole thing, not just this particular instance. But that's a good thing for us. And thanks, Tripp.
Mayor, we're going to have any questions or dialogue from anyone outside of the council?
We have 6 people that have signed up to address this item. We'll take them in order. Mr. Danny Henderson, please step to the microphone, introduce yourself for the record.
Danny Henderson, 1930 Marina Road, 150 feet from the suspect property. Freddie told me to be nice tonight, and I intend to have a good deal of respect for you guys, and I'm going to treat you like I'd like to be treated. My wife hosted a jewelry party for a friend at our house, so I had to park about a dozen cars in the open space alongside my driveway. We live about 150 feet from this blank property, but there's no open space in that proposed PUD, and you can't park cars on Marina Road or in the lake or on Jennifer Drive. So my question is, if someone in the proposed PUD had a jewelry party, a baby shower, birthday party, a Super Bowl party, where are they going to park their cars? 10 cars? 5 cars? They wouldn't have room to park 2 extra cars down there. Where are they going to park them? My house, I guess. Russellville Zoning Code 2.16 Plan Unit Developments, page 28. The zone also promotes the inclusion of open space, and open space is a key feature of any PUD. That they're proposing down there is not a PUD. It's 20 crowded houses with a gate and a fence in front. That's all it is. A PUD can be accurately defined as a complete neighborhood unit having a range of dwelling types, the necessary local shopping facilities, and off-road parking areas, this is a quote, parks, playgrounds, school sites, and other community facilities. You have to have a large tract of land to have an actual PUD. Prototype PUDs include Levittown, New York, the very first PUD ever. How much land do you think it covered? 7 square miles. The population in 2010 was about 52,000. Park Forest, Illinois, the second PUD. Population 22,000 in the 2010 census, covered 5 square miles. Levittown is said to have, quote, offered attractive alternatives to cramped central city locations and apartments. Levittown, New York is on Long Island. The reason there's essentially no open space in this plan is that it's covered up with houses, driveways, and roadways. This also explains the lack of any actual PUD features such as parks, pools, playgrounds, jogging paths, etc. 20 houses crowded onto 3.27 acres leaves no open space for anything. In an actual PUD, you would see houses clustered, possibly 3 or 4 groups of 3 houses clustered, spread out a little bit, such that there would be green space, open space in the center. I don't know how the Planning Commission ever approved this with no open space, no green space. There's 2 picnic tables out there that covers up the green space. No green space after the picnic tables are placed there. But then that would defeat the obvious purpose of this building plan, which is to overburden this plat with the maximum number of houses possible for the greatest return on investment, which is okay in the proper context, which this is not. This is not the proper context. This is an R1 zone. You're messing with the sanctity of my domicile that I've been in over 20 years, and my dozen neighbors around me, they bought and built in an R1 zone. They felt like it would be an R1 zone. And when each of you people here on the council have 20 houses within 150 feet of your front door, you'll understand what it means to have the sanctity of your domicile. Russellville Zoning Code 2.16, Plan Unit Developments, page 29. The PUD may not be used simply as a method of avoiding zoning regulations. And we all know that that's what's going on here. They don't want to build R1. They could build like maybe 9 houses there with R1, and we'd be fine with that. We're nice. Build them over there. We'll welcome you into the neighborhood. Okay, not any zoning change. The PUD is the only zoning change that this refers to. The only one. Not changing it from commercial to industrial to residential or whatever. The PUD says you can't do it. It's not said of any other zoning. May not be used simply as a method of avoiding zoning regulations. If they were building within the zoning regulations, as we all did, why would they seek rezoning as a PUD? We just want to build some houses there. Fine, come on and build them. Follow the same rules that we did. I think that's being nice. That's acting, playing by the rules. This is a thinly veiled attempt to get you to look the other way while they ignore Russellville zoning laws. Strip away the fence and the gate, and you've got 20 houses crammed together on 3.27 acres in an R1 zone, less than 1/6 of an acre per house. The Planning Commission, I guess, started it, and maybe y'all approved it, to change the regulations to where they could build 7 houses per acre. Within the purview of trying to get this thing regulated, the rules have, 2 or 3 rules have been changed just to cram this thing in on this 3 acres. I don't understand it. PUD Form 2002 Ordinance 1740, the City of Russellville. The PUD shall not endanger the public welfare or safety, nor shall it substantially diminish or impair property values in the neighborhood in which it is located. Local realtors and other people have assured us that our people on the Planning Commission have assured us that our property values will increase with the PUD nearby. However, one of the highest rated, if not the highest rated property appraiser in the state of Arkansas has told us and has documentary evidence that in some areas in northwest Arkansas, surrounding property values have declined near PUDs. This proposed PUD is unanimously opposed by the surrounding homeowners and is inappropriate for this R1 zone. And I would urge you, all you have to do is retain the R1 rules. I don't see why this has to be such a big fight. Play by the rules. That's what we've been doing for the last 25 or 30 years. Number 2, this plat is much too crowded with 20 houses on 3.27 acres and would be too crowded even among other PUDs, or especially among other PUDs. This would be a very poor example of a PUD in Dallas. There is essentially no usable open space in this plan. There are no actual PUD characteristics such as parks, pools, and playgrounds. A fence and a gate do not define a tract as a PUD. Planning, placement, and homeowner-oriented features do. The original PUD in Levittown did not even allow fences for several years. Finally, after several years, people started putting swimming pools in their backyards, and for safety, they allowed them to build fences. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Mr. Harry Simcox.
Phil Sims was not there tonight, they voted, but Robert Wiley was. As I went up to the podium, I heard a lady say, I might as well have stayed home and watched television. It's already worked out. Folks, every time you beat 7-0, you got your butt kicked. And you got your butt kicked because it was collusion that we saw up there in the Planning Commission. But with that said, Phil was there in one session. I give the same testimony. I'm an 80-year-old man, and I live in a PUD. I live in Marina Shores with my wife, Jewel Stanford. And out there with 15 neighbors who invest about $3.75 million in their property. When we look at the proposed property you're considering and think about what it could do in terms of a lot of our people who invest in major parts of our retirement income in these homes. And if you're going to tell me that you're going to put a 1,200 square foot house and make my 2,200 square foot house more valuable, folks, you got another thing coming. There's 15 neighbors out there, and I call them neighbors because I know everyone, and I doubt any one of you know 15 of you nearby neighbors. But that's what we are as a close-knit community. With that said, it surprises me we're even dealing with this again because in May of 15, you dealt with the same issue in Nixon. In October of 16, you nixed it. And here we are still talking about it. You know why? Because it's just what Danny said. You've changed some of the rules. And you're going to keep changing those rules till you get it done. The point is, he's talking about 1/5 of an acre per house. This doesn't count the approaches. It doesn't count the cul-de-sacs. It doesn't count the paved surfaces out there. And so this is where it goes. When we look at what I like to think, because I live there, the gold standard in Russellville, Arkansas is Marina Shores. the thing I challenge you with. We do that. We play yard maintenance. We do the things. We fertilize our grasses. We deal with this just like it's our home, because it is the home of 15 of us out there. And we take a lot of pride in it. And folks, if you think the same kind of pride is going to be distributed in this unit down there, I think you got another thing of it. I'm not emotional. I'm very factual about this. I can give you all the details Danny did, but the simple fact is there's no way putting a unit 1/5 of a mile from us is going to make our property more valuable. It's not going to happen. And when you deal with this, you need to be able to on that basis. And I'm talking about folks, the easiest way you leave marine shores is with the corner. So you need to understand, this is our, not only a retirement home, it's probably the last home that we're going to live in. And if you're going to take that away from us, you're taking everything else. And I think it bears very heavy on each of you to have heard this, which is the same testimony I gave the planning commission without emotion, just simple facts. Deal with them as they lay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Simcox, a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, by the way, I appreciate what you said because it is one of the prettiest properties along that drive.
Yes, sir.
I remember what it looked like before, and 3 houses down from you is what, sitting back in the trees?
No comment.
No comment about the trailer park? Okay. Now, for clarification on how many acres, you say it's a PUD that you live in. You've got 15 units, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and those 15 units are not single units, though.
No, sir.
They are what you would call condos or duplexes?
If I look at the bylaws, it calls them apartments.
Okay, so then these apartments are built on how many, wait a minute,
About
apartments?
4.21 acres. Is what the
4.21, now that's the footprint of the actual buildings.
Footprint of the actual property. We got 132 feet to the lake down there. That belongs to the government.
Now-
Our property is 4.2. Now, hear me first and foremost. I pay for the grass to be mowed every month.
Right.
I pay for the fertilization to be put on. They are treating 1.5 acres of that condo.
Right.
That's green space, folks, and it's 30%.
Okay,
I dare you to prove that with this.
okay, and how many entrances, though, does your property have?
One single entrance.
One in and one out?
No, well, one in and one out in the same post.
So one in, and you come back out the same way?
Well, not through the same one, but they're joined right there in the middle, so it's 2 gates. One swings one way,
So,
one swings the
and you said retired folks living in your units.
Yeah, I'm retired.
So who you think's gonna buy these properties down the street from you?
I have no idea who's gonna buy those properties.
But they don't wanna keep up their lawn, there's a POA attached to it as well. Is
Yeah.
there not?
Our 15 folks do it because the POA is strong. And I don't know how you're gonna get that many people together.
Well, I would suggest that that might be one of the stipulations that we follow up on to make sure that POA is established properly.
Well, when you go into what we are, we were started off, when Mike Wilkins built that, it was an LLC, okay? Just this year, we've changed to POA. It's Property Owners Association, which means we now own our property. We are 15 individual owners in there that live in our own domicile, as Danny referred to it, but we're all neighbors. At
Well-
the end of the day, we're all a lot of seniors. I think we
Yeah.
have one 40-year-old man living in there. I don't know why.
Well, and-
We're all old people, but it's good to see the young kids running around. I'll
But
say
you,
that.
you talk about property value decreasing.
Yes, sir.
My nephew lives in a PUD. He's a young professional, a dentist, likes to go home, play pitch with the dog, doesn't want to mow a yard, doesn't have to. He paid $299,000 for that property 5 years ago. Properties around him now in the same PUD they're selling for $499,000. He's got $200,000 in equity in 5 years. I wish I could make such an investment.
Do you really believe that's going to happen here?
Why can it not? We don't have this kind of housing. We don't have housing for young professionals like my nephew. We don't have housing like these retired folks that want to buy those kind of properties. And to answer Mr. Henderson's question, I can show you an R1 property that's on 1.5 acres. That neighbor next door, before he moved in there, and the fraternity party that happened, and I can tell you how they took care of the party, the parking. They had a valet service, and they had cars backed up from top of Bliss Lane to Marina Road, and they were valeting them and parking them on the Pentecostal church parking lot over there. You know, kids are creative. But that's what happened on an acre and a half of R1. And by the way, I live a whole lot closer to 50 houses on about 16 acres. I've got 35 feet across the street and then the width of the street in my driveway. So I'm within about 100 feet of 50 houses in a comparable density. And I can assure you they're all R1, and I can assure you there are not enough restrictions. Appreciate you, Mr. Harry. I still think the world of you.
I'm struggling with you.
There you go.
I've told him that before.
Ms. Becky Waldo?
Council and people here that are against the PUD. I just wanted to tell you that you always have to look forward, but you always have to look backwards. When Marina Road was brought into the city of Russellville, it was brought in and they said that they would do certain things if we would add that to our city. The things that they said that they would add to the city is they would put sewer on the other side of the road, which has never happened. They would the trailers, you talked about the trailers, that any trailer that had been moved out or fell down, that they would never add another trailer back in there, and that it would remain an R1. Now, my father works 37 years with the state police. He sunk every bit of his money into this little bit of acreage out there because he thought that that's what would help him and give us something. 37 years. That was over 30 years ago that he built this house. And it's hard not to get emotional about it because I know what they saw out there. I know what they thought they had. And to think that this is going in right next door to it, it breaks my heart. Because he served this country, not only in the state police for 37 years, he served in the invasion of Normandy, Omaha Beach. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional here. I have a renter right now in my mom and dad's house who wants to buy this property. She will not buy this property if this PUD goes in. We've already settled on a price. The reason she hasn't bought it already is she works at the nuclear plant. She's getting a per diem when she comes here. So she'll lose $30,000 a year if she would bought it when she moved in, because she needs to get that per diem. I look at the little hill before there and the traffic that it will sustain going over into this little hill and people going in and out of there. You have these firemen back here. I want you to ask each one of them if they could get a fire truck in and out of the place that you've got proposed. I agree. Our firemen and our policemen need more money. They deserve more money, because I grew up that way. I wasn't notified of this. I was notified of it last year, but then I was told it was going to be put on hold until sometime this year. I never got a notification. I got another letter in December that said it was going to be put on hold, but I never ever got another notification, which I think is in the rules that I am supposed to be notified since I own the property now. You can't continue to do waivers and changes. You've got to look back in time. You've got to look back at what these people thought they were getting when they promised them that that road will remain R1. That road would remain R1. And you can say what you want to, but I built a house for my daughter down at the bottom of Hilltop. I think it was James Bibler's land that had it down there. And each one of those houses, it was hard to get a house on there, I can tell you, in an R1 district. and they're nice houses down there. There is nothing wrong with keeping this as a R1 and putting some of those type of houses down there. I just appease to all of y'all to please keep it an R1. This is what this was supposed to be. It's what it should remain. Thank you.
Dr. Andy Monfy.
My name is Dr. Andy Monfy, and I live at 1111 Marina Way. I have I came with two things, but I got a third thing that I want to start out with. I want to thank Mayor Horton for the right to be up here and speak to you tonight. I was quite concerned that it was a 50-50 tie of whether we'd get to speak at all, and we didn't elect you for that. We elected you to hold open forum and allow the public to speak. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing us to speak here tonight and breaking that tie. So I
appreciate that, but I really don't get any credit for it. That's our rules of procedure.
Thank you. But you could have gone the other way, I suppose. No. But we did elect all of you to represent us and to be our voice, and that means we get a voice. So to expand on two things from Mr. Henderson, he gave you a definition of planned unit development. This is a little town. We don't have planned unit developments. We have spot rezoning. That's basically what we have, is spot rezoning. If you do a little research on spot rezoning, you find, if you go to, say, and this won't take long, Michigan State University, this practice gets its name from the appearance of small spots of different zoning districts on a zoning map that otherwise has large contiguous areas in the same zoning district around those spots. If you go to a law school and look at their legal, spot zoning is a provision in a general zoning plan which benefits a single parcel of land by creating an allowed use for that parcel that is not allowed for the surrounding properties in the area. Because of implications of favoritism, spot zoning is not a favored practice. Washington University. Spot zoning is the reclassification by zoning amendment of a small parcel of land to allow a use that's beneficial to the property owner but detrimental to his neighbors or the community at large. Courts around the country have condemned spot zoning as the opposite of planned development, since the proposed use is either inconsistent with surrounding uses or does not conform to the comprehensive plan. Now, with that said, as Mr. Henderson talked about PUDs, and we're actually just talking about spot zoning, we're using the word PUD. What has happened recently, we have loosened some zoning restrictions, or loosened some restrictions that our Planning Commission has to go by. We have removed traffic flow and property value so that our Planning Commission does not have to consider those. Before we go forward with any other spot zoning or PUD, we the people request that these provisions be replaced so that the Planning Commission has to consider traffic flow and property value. I want to expand on Mr. Henderson when he said his neighbors. He mentioned the number 12. He mentioned people immediately around him. For the past 6 months, my wife and I have been all over this city. We have been in Deer Run, in Woodridge, in Brookside, in River Oaks. We've been up and down Skyline. We've been all over Hilltop. We've been on Marina Way. We've been on Marina Road. The two of us have contacted around 1,800. That's 1,800 contacts that we have made in the past 6 months. We've made at least half of those face-to-face. The others we have on email. We have text. We have social media, mainly Facebook. We have weekly meetings attended by some of you guys. And so we represent not 10 or 12, we represent about 1,800 registered voters in this city. And it is the will of the people that our R1 neighborhoods be preserved. It's the will of the people that you vote against rezoning the Jennifer Lane property. Thank you.
Mr. Harold Cornett.
Is this okay here? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, council ladies, council gentlemen, I've been asked to come before you and place for your consideration as a way to promote transparency, good faith, and understanding to the citizens by using the designation PUD as a secondary and not primary zoning option. We respectfully ask the designation of PUD be secondary or a subclassification used after a project has received a primary zoning code. Adhering to this procedure would ensure the enforcement of Russellville Zoning Code 2.16, which reads, PUD designation may not be used simply as a method of avoiding zoning regulations. Adherence will allow residents to fully understand the primary purpose of any project. Then, if city officials or the public so desire, PUD regulations may be imposed to gain any oversight either party may seek, all the while maintaining the integrity of Section 2.16 of the Planning Code. As citizens, we have communicated our position on PUD rezoning of R1 property not contiguous to commercial or industrial areas. We communicated our position to the council. We communicated our position through our local media. And on May 9th, we finally communicated that through vote. I hope the council and the Planning Commission understands that the people are quite resolute in their standing on rezoning under the PUD classification. Mr. Brown, Mr. Tripp, I heard you just a moment ago talk about the issue of communication. Is that correct? That I think there hadn't been enough communication. If I heard correct, the city had been working with Mr. Landers since 2015 on the Arbors project. I would venture to say that all these people sitting back here had never heard the name Nick Landers before 6 months ago. We didn't bring Nick Landers to Russellville. During this entire process, all we heard was Nick Landers is coming to Russellville. He's wearing a white hat. He's got on a white suit. He's riding a white stallion. And he's going to save that mountain. We had no clue who he was. Now we went through a vote. Mr. Landers didn't get what he wanted. Now we are told that Mr. Landers is coming back to Russellville. Only this time he's wearing a black hat, a black suit, and riding a mule, and he's going to put track housing on Skyline. And the insinuation is that it's our fault. No, sir, it's not our fault. We didn't bring Mr. Landers to Russellville. Whatever Mr. Landers turns out to be, that's on the shoulders of those who brought Mr. Landers to Russellville. All we did was tell Mr. Landers that we wanted to maintain our property, and we wanted to maintain the dignity of our neighborhood. So if Mr. Landers returns to Russellville on a mule, don't dare look at us, and please don't say that it's our fault. Mr. Mayor, all we did was vote. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sims.
I don't think anybody brought Mr. Landers to Russellville. He saw an opportunity to secure 75 beds, and he secured them. I'm not finished. I gave you the respect. Just one second.
I'm not saying anything, sir. Am I okay, Mr.
Now, just for clarification,
Let's hold off here a second.
I'm
Mr.
not
Sims,
from.
Just a second. Now, I've tried to be a fair guy, but we've got rules of procedure. Part of that is a time limit on how long we can address something.
That's a good point.
Let's keep this short. Mr. Cornett, I'll give you one chance to rebut. But let's keep it respectful and clean, both of them.
My simple point is, if you look at the census, a few years ago, this town wasn't at 28,000, it was only at 24,000, so it took it 10 years to grow 4,000. I adopted Arkansas as my adopted state 33 years ago, this past May 1st. I'm not from Arkansas, I've been told many times. I'm not from Russellville. I moved here 12 years ago. But the last time I checked, when I applied for my job here and I applied to a job and it was accepted, and then I bought a piece of real estate, I started paying taxes just like everyone else here. My point is, respectfully, that new people coming to this town are not second-class citizens because they were not born here. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. You just described me. I'm not from here. I wasn't born here. I came here to work at Arkansas Tech University, and I've been here for 45 years. And I certainly don't consider myself or anyone else that comes to Russellville a second-class citizen. I find that a rather rude, childish remark to say that any of us would feel that way. What I was trying to say, Mr. Mayor, is that if the city was working with Mr. Landers since 2015, there was no way that any of us can be held responsible for what Mr. Landers does in this town. Whether he would have built the arbors, or whether, as we're now being told, that he's going to come back to Russellville and absolutely ruin our mountain with tract housing because he didn't get his way. That was my only point, sir.
Thank you. Council, all right, that's all that's signed up to speak. Council? Mr. Wiley, are you wanting to add something?
I just want to move on.
Does anybody else have something to add at this time?
Mayor, just to,
I would like to hear from
closing
Mr. Garza, Mr. Mayor.
In closing, from my standpoint on this, the purpose of this, if there's any issues that the council has that wants to discuss anything pertaining to this project, this is, I hope, the forum that we will take to debate it, to throw out ideas, to explore, don't leave any stone unturned, if you will, so that we can, at the end of the day, when we take a vote for this project, yes or no, we can look back and say, we did every bit of our due diligence in making this decision.
Mayor, one other guy wants to speak.
Mr. Garza. I'm allowed Mr. Garza to speak because he was asked for, by the council.
Just a question. I wasn't aware about the sign up, so that's my fault. So I'm not allowed to speak. I understand that. What you're just voting to read it one time tonight, correct? Second. Okay. Will there be allowable discussion then at the next reading where we can then sign up?
Say no.
Yes, so he can talk.
I will put it on the agenda, and it takes 5 votes for it to happen.
Okay. Because I was here early for the finance committee and didn't see the sheet back there. So, and I know that's no excuse, but it did happen.
This is a new process for all of us. So, Mr.
That being
Garza,
said, I would
my
like-
plan is for it to be on the first and second readings, so that, because we
Oh,
hear
well.
something, ask a question the first time, we have time to think about it, come back, and we, may even have a question pertaining to what we were told or heard or thought of, after the first meeting, first reading or after.
I'll do that.
Mr. Mayor, if Mr. Garza came here ready to speak, I would support that we listen to him. Because I do have a couple questions for him. I'll ask them without him speaking if you'd allow it.
Move on, Mayor.
Point of order, Mr. City Attorney. I want to be sure that we hold ourselves to the highest standards.
If 2/3 of this council want to extend debate, it can do so. It requires a second. It's not debatable. Otherwise, for our procedures, we've had the people speak.
Okay.
So if that's what they wanted.
Mr. Sims, do you want to make a motion to extend debate?
So moved.
Who wants to second that?
I'll second.
What you doing?
Second, we're going to extend debate. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, sounds
No.
good enough to me.
No.
So, how many noes?
No.
No. All right, we got 2 noes.
3 no.
Motion to extend debate carries.
Takes 2/3.
Take 2/3?
There's
Got 3 no.
3 no.
Let's call the roll, because I'm not hearing it clearly. Yeah.
This First Amendment issue, is it not?
Mr.
What?
I retract that.
Let's call the roll and get our procedure straight first.
Mr. Sims,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Westcott,
No.
Ms. Caruth,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
No.
Mr. George,
Yes.
Mr. Wiley.
No.
5 to 3.
Okay, so the motion to extend debate fails. As Mr. Sims, I believe, pointed out, this is the first reading. We will have another reading next month. Feel free to come back.
Excuse me, I was voting to allow him to speak. I just misunderstood that. You said it took 5?
It takes 6, takes 2/3.
Oh, good grief. Well, I've got a whole list of questions I'll bring back to you. Thank you, Mr. Garza.
Are you sure?
Yes. As long as we're given the opportunity at a later date to be able to present our side of the line.
So we're going to have to listen to all this again for 2 more months.
Yeah, 2 more months.
Okay, item 3, consideration of did somebody else have anything else? Okay, we haven't covered. Item 3, consideration of a public hearing first. We'll declare the public hearing open. It's about vacating a portion of a 60-foot right-of-way. Is anybody here that would like to speak to that?
Gave you that opportunity.
Anybody want to speak on the public hearing? All right, hearing closed. Now we'll consider an ordinance to vacate a portion of a 60-foot right-of-way on West 22nd Street.
I'm gonna make a motion, suspend the rules, read by title only, short explanation.
All right,
Second?
clarification again. Are you suspending the rules for the first reading, for
No.
3 readings? How you?
One reading. One reading only.
One reading only. Is that what you're seconding?
Yes, sir.
Everybody understand what we're voting
There's
on?
no reason to read this 3 times.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll? And we'll see if there is.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
Mr. Westcott.
Yes.
Mr. Sims.
Yes.
Mr. George.
Yes.
Ms. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yep.
Mr. Tripp.
Yes.
Ms. Caruth.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Smith.
An ordinance vacating and abandoning a 60-foot right-of-way of West 22nd Street running between Lot 1 and Lots 6 and 7, Block H of Eagle Crest subdivision, part of Pinecrest Hill subdivision, City of Russellville, Pope County, Arkansas, for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would vacate the 60-foot right-of-way as previously described and as further described in the attachment labeled Exhibit A.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Any discussion?
That was Wiley.
Wiley's motion, Mr. Westcott's second. You want to call the roll?
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
Mr. Westcott.
Yes.
Ms. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. George.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Good.
Mr. Tripp.
Yes.
Ms. Caruth.
Yes.
Mr. Sims.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 4 is consideration of a resolution. about a rehab agreement. Mr. Smith will explain. We need a motion and a second.
Motion,
Second.
so I can hear what it is.
Let's see, how's the score now? It's motion, Mr. Wiley, second, Mr. Westcott. Now discussion.
This is, this happened, is that normally a rehab agreement is introduced after a dilapidated property is brought before the council for either removal or enter into the agreement. The community development went ahead and entered into an agreement with the person for rehabbing it without bringing it to the council. They had their reasons, however, because there may be issues with the first benchmark and that the person who they entered into it does not appear that they will make it. This is just cleaning up, just having the council ratify the community development's actions for entering that agreement.
Now discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That brings us to item 5. This is consideration of an ordinance accepting the final plat of the Briars subdivision.
Motion to suspend rules, read by title only, short explanation for first time and only first time.
So you're suspending for all readings.
I'll second that.
Second, Mr. Westcott. We'll call the roll on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Ms. Carew?
Yes.
Motion carries.
An ordinance accepting the final plat of the Briar subdivision, accept the dedication of the easements to the city of Russellville, Arkansas, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would accept the final plat of the Briar subdivision and all the dedications of the easements included therein, that is further described and labeled in Exhibit A as the attachment to the ordinance, and also with the others attachment labeled Exhibit B.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
When do we get discussion in here?
Right now.
Right now? Where is Briarwood?
It's on South Knoxville,
Yes.
past the high school.
This is the duplex community going in adjacent.
All part of the other
The
addition?
last two streets over there.
It's technically a separate subdivision, isn't it, Kurt?
Yeah.
This is actually the third street.
Third phrase.
Yeah, Ashbrook?
This is apartments too, isn't it? Duplexes? Yeah, duplexes.
How many houses are on those pieces of property out there? I'm talking about, I drove down those streets and I counted 18 streets like in one block, it seemed like, but it was an extended block.
Dave, you may know the answer to that. I mean, I want to say there were between the two phases.
Yeah, the first two phases, there were like 130 something.
But it
How
goes,
much land is that on?
it goes way back there though.
10 acres?
20
220?
acres. It goes. Yeah, it goes way back. I walked that.
Yeah, there's some, Wig Creek runs back there. There is some flood zone back in that area.
Yeah.
And they cut down all those trees, didn't they? Or were there ever trees on it?
There weren't a lot of
Is that
trees.
just a standard thing when they now put in these big subdivisions and all the homes are built, just to strip all the land?
Well, there were never any trees on that property.
That was
It was pasture land.
Yeah, it wasn't no land.
So we took away agricultural land to build houses on.
I guess.
I'm
so.
used to it. Go ahead.
Yeah, there wasn't no trees.
I just didn't know that was called Briarwood. I know where Ashwood is, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Two of the guys have been there about track.
Great, great. Good for local economy.
Mayor, procedure question, not that I'm thinking about voting no on this, but from a council procedure standpoint, at accepting the final plat, what would be the justification of not voting no on this? I mean, without the city having violations cited against the subdivision, what would allow?
Well, I could answer that, I think. I mean, if
Good, because I was drawing a blank.
And I think you probably hit on the one
You're on the road fishing. I
issue
know where you are.
that would, I guess, justify a no vote, and that would be if the thing was not built according to the the approved plans and standards that had been approved for the.
So my next
original.
question is, as city public works director engineer, has this been built to spec and everything?
We're satisfied with the project at this point. Now we do have a surety for some unfinished improvements on the project, but we're satisfied with the state of the project at this point.
Are the properties around there, are properties in the city, I'm thinking back behind the fairgrounds right now, that are even more dense than this?
There are definitely areas that are as dense as this and possibly more dense, but I don't know. I don't know if there's anything. I mean, there's some areas that are probably equal in density.
So there's really the plans are already in place for R1 for this type of density to come in without.
Well,
as
now
long as they
part
go
of this
through
property, this property has got multiple zonings on it. Some of it is
Okay.
R1, some of it is R2. And this
I got you. That explains
R-
the duplexes.
Oh, that's what. Okay, that's what it was.
And then the back part was R2.
R2. That's right.
They did a rezone,
That's David's correct. The front part of the property was C2. The first two phases of Ashbrook were developed as residential, single family residential, and I believe that when you develop single family residential in a C2 zone, which it is allowed, and it was done on this property, that it follows the R2 zone, as far as size requirements, setbacks, and so forth. So it was basically developed as a single-family R2 subdivision. Now, on this phase, part of this property was already R2, which does allow duplexes. C2 does not allow duplexes. So they rezoned the front part from C2 to R2. So this is not an R1 zone, it's an R2 zone.
R2 zone.
With R2, you can develop it as single-family, or you can develop it as duplex, but you cannot have more than 2 units per lot. So it was developed as a
Okay.
most of it was developed as a single family, and then this last phase they're doing is a duplex development.
I have one more question, and we'll let the mayor take off on his fishing trip.
Mayor's going to need to add a late agenda item if you guys have time.
The standard lots in all the R1 little pink houses lined up in a row, as John Cougar Mellencamp was saying. What are our standard lots and setbacks?
Minimum size is 9,600 square feet. Minimum front setback is 25 feet, and minimum width is 75. It's either 70 or 75. What is it, Dave? I think it's 75.
And house to house, is that still 10 feet or
Well,
something?
you have to have there's a side setback. There's a side setback required that's, I believe, 7.5 feet. I have to look at the table.
If it's inside, it's 10. If it's corner, it's 15. 25 in the front.
Okay, that's correct.
What about the back?
It's 15.
15 in the back.
On R1.
And that's measured from the brick out to the back fence, or is that from the eave? From the brick, from the foundation to the property line?
It's the structure. I mean, the most protruding portion of the structure, so.
Okay.
Hmm.
It would be from the eve.
It'd be from the eve.
So what is your late item agenda, Mr. Mayor?
Let's see, we need
Oh.
to dispatch with this one.
We have
Is
to
there
vote
any
on
other
this?
discussion?
Question?
Call the roll.
Mr. Sadot, correct?
Did we get a motion
I
to
lost
adopt, or
track.
did we just suspend?
We did.
We
did.
Okay.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Ms. Carew?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now we got.
Council, I need your guidance on how to proceed on a deal we did earlier on El Paso. I'd like to add that as a late agenda item. I promise not to take too much of your time if you'll do that. I need a motion and a second to add.
Motion.
I'll second.
Second, Mr.
George.
George, thank you.
Gotta get one in.
All in favor of adding a late agenda item, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. If you'll recall, we made an offer to buy a property at 16th and Knoxville,
Yes.
potentially to relocate Public Works.
Yes.
We made that contingent on an accepted offer with Arkansas Tech to buy our Public Works building. We thought we would be supporting development on El Paso according to their master plan. We've extended the closing on that twice already because you have to put a date in. We put it in, we've done it, but I'm a little uncomfortable extending it again without some kind of indication from the council of where you think we're going to go with that. Are we going to follow through? If we get an acceptable offer from Tech, at this time, they're waiting on an environmental report to come back. They're still interested in our property, but I need your permission to sign an extension till June
Why don't you wait till it gets
16th, I
back?
believe.
What?
Why don't you wait till he gets back?
Well, our offer is going to expire Monday.
I make a motion, we give you the authority to extend the date.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Well, Mayor, under discussion, so there's no obligation, we're not on the hook for anything if the
If it
offer
don't
and
fall,
agreement
if it falls through.
If it
Correct.
falls through for any reason.
Yeah.
If we can't agree to a deal with Arkansas Tech on ours,
Then it
we're not
falls through.
obligated.
It's dependent on that. So.
Yeah.
And that requires your blessing. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn from Mr. Westcott.
Second.
So we are adjourned.